think I'm going to install the crankshaft next. And the camshaft, I'm not sure I'm going to put the tappets and camshaft in yet. But while it's in my hand, I was looking it over. I want to check it. And we got inlet and exhaust 2936. And we are 0. And we are 2968. What is that? 2936. 2973. This one you can't be on the ball, I guess. 2988. And 2975. So they're all within service limits, and the cam doesn't look like it has any wear on it. I thought if this went without oil pressure or something, it'd be like gouged, scratched. So super happy with the cam. And I don't know if we have a spec for that, do we? PTO side on a 15.99. And we are 1616. So we're good. No wear on that. So this cam would be ready to put back in. I didn't take the top assembly apart. It's got the check balls in there for our governor. The spring looks great on it. I mean, just look at that, nice. And so the cam would be ready to be installed. So set that back in the box. Keep it from getting marked up. We're gonna take the crankshaft and do some little measuring on that. And I gotta keep washing my hands because we got oils. I don't want to get my book all fingerprinted already. I only used it 5 minutes now. I got that mouthy cat in there driving me nuts. Okay, so happy with the cam. The tappets look good. I don't know if there's any measurements on the tappets. I don't think so. Now there is. There's a measure the inside diameter of the camshaft insert on the crankcase cover at several points. If the diameter is more than the service limit, replace the crankshaft cover. We're not going to worry about that. There is no wear on any of this stuff. The only thing so far is wear is the side skirts had a little bit of marks, and the ring end gap was terrible. It was 105 and 85. So crankshaft connecting rods, installation, remove, pull the crankshaft, clean up the crank. So we're going to blow that off, get that clean, apply engine oil. We've got our new seal in there. Clean inspection, clean, inspect the teeth, blah, 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 blah. I'm just being super careful. I've had these apart and put them back together before, not a Kawasaki. And it's and this is pretty important because this is a $2,000 engine on eBay. And, you know, I'll take an extra hour and read the book and check my tolerances and then know when I'm putting it back together. And the big thing is, like I said, we got all the sludge out of there. And changing the oil, that didn't do a whole lot. I mean, the oil was a little cleaner. But I did change oil off camera, and I wasn't real happy with the color. So tearing this down, I've got about almost $200 in that re-ring kit from Kawasaki, and that's kind of a lot of money. So I want to do this right. Otherwise, it's just wasted money I don't have. Connecting rod, bent or twisted. Oh boy. We don't think we have those issues, but I want to check them. I want to go back onto the crankshaft before the connecting rod. See what we got here. Measure the crank pin width, A. Okay, so we're going to do that. They're heavy, boy. It's a nice, big, heavy piece. They're pretty heavy. Wipe this off. We had this all cleaned out. We had this in the parts washer. And then I set it in the cardboard box. Shut up, cat. You're annoying. That's Dawson's cat. Really annoying. So we've got A is this diameter here, and we have 44.7, and that's millimeters, obviously. And I've got 44, what is it? 44.7. I got 44.32. Let's check it up here a little bit. Got 44.17. $44.25. And that's, I don't think I can get in here very good. 44.60. So we're in spec. If it's wider than that, I think you got to use shims or something, because you're going to get a lot of, you know, walking on it. And that's the next spec we got to check. Connecting rod, end clearance, blah blah blah. Crankshaft run out. So we're not going to do that because I don't have the equipment for that. It didn't vibrate. It ran good. It looks good. We're not going to monkey with that. We need some dial. I need to do the run out with dial gauges I don't have. Main journal wear. Measure both main journals at several points, A and B, right? If the journal diameter is less than the service limit, replace. 39.9 on the PTO side and 39.9. Always check your zero. Several places, so we are, well, 39.9. I'm 40. There's not enough wear on there to say there's wear, guys. Let's see what is in the shiniest spot. 39.96. That's out of spec. 39.96. Let's try thousandths. 0. We're going to change a mode to inches, and we want 1.571 inches, and we are 1.5725, 571, 5785. That's in spec. 5765. Says several spots. 5715. And it said 571. 5745. We're in spec. And then the flywheel side is 3988. And we are 1570. This is 15705. 15740. All you have to do is tilt this like a half a degree, and you're going to get that difference if you're not using a micrometer. Actually, I got a micrometer that'll fit this. I got a 1 and a 2. But this is pretty accurate. 15725, 15745, 4045. We're in spec. We're good. I'm not going to cry over that. So now we're just going to blow this out. Make sure there's nothing, no mosquito crawled up in there in the shop, right? Make sure everything's cleaned out here. There's only that one. And that feeds oil out through the rod bearing, so you definitely want to clear that out. And feel both of them. And they're both clear, and I'll blow the other way. We're good. Now, we're going to oil this, and we're going to set her down in there. And I'm going to see If these 2x4 blocks are high enough, they should be, right? I think so. So, don't roll off my bench. Can you see? Can you see? Sort of. We blew this all out. After we honed it, we cleaned it out, we washed it out, we rubbed it out, make sure there's no honing material in there. We're going to take new engine oil I put in this bucket. It's I think it's 1030. It was that, what is it, AC Delco stuff there. Sorry about the cat in the background. He wants to go outside. But he's a bad boy. I caught him. I went down the road looking for him one morning because they wanted to go outside and play. And it was, let's see, this goes this way. It was early out. You know what I should do is pop that washer off our flywheel. I don't want to touch that seal with it. So let me pop this off in there first. Then I'll set the crank in. Alright, I popped that washer and bolt off in there so there's no chance of touching the seal. I've got oil on the journal. Carefully put her down in there. Carefully. Pretty tight tolerances. There we go. She's in. And Tiger, he went down the road. I let him out about 5 o'clock one morning because I get up early. And they like to go out and check out the birds, whatever. They're out there for an hour or so, but he didn't come back. So I took a flashlight. It wasn't quite daylight. Took my phone with me so I could take a photo. I walked down the road and I saw 2 cats. He was down there with another cat. So I called him and I said he's grounded. He finally come up to me and he was about a quarter mile down the road. We're in a 45 speed zone here, so cars do go moving by here, and there's no real shoulder. I don't want him getting squashed. All right, so now, do we want to mess with the tappets and the cam? I don't think it's necessary yet, because it'll be in our way. So why don't we move on to the pistons? And what I want to do with those, got to get in the box here, is we got to check. Here's a box of all kinds of parts here. Parts is parts. We got our old rings in there. We've got our connecting rods still attached. I put my caps back on. I took all the rings off. And normally you take an old ring and you snap it, get a nice sharp edge and clean these. There's nothing in them. There's no carbon, nothing built up in them. They're super clean. So we're not going to clean them, I guess, other than spray them out, make sure there's no dust in them. Both of them are the same. They're really nice. So I'll get this junk out of the way. We'll start working on the pistons. I'm going to clean them up good, and then we're going to put the new rings on. And prior to that, let's see, what do we got to do? I think prior to that, we should check the journals here. And that's why I wanted that inside mic for. And Dawson didn't bring that yet, so I don't know if I'm going to get that today. I might have to use a caliper for that. And let's see, with this right here, it's 40 millimeters, so I can check that before we move along. Now I lost the spot to put my book. So we got 40 millimeter. So, can you see? Can you see? A little bit. I made some hazelnut coffee when I let the cat in. Want to taste? It's good. We don't want to go to Dunkin' Donuts and pay $5 for a coffee. Alright, so I want to check this. I'm assuming you put the cap on and measure this way at 40.04 millimeter. So zero it, 40.04, and we'll check this in like 3 spots. Probably this side's easier. And we're 39.40, 39.96, 39.98, 39.90, and we're allowed 40.04. That means we're not going to get any knock out of it because there's not too much, you know, play. There is a little wear. I showed you earlier that there's a little wear on it, but you don't feel anything. I think you're going to get that, you know, engine that's been running. So that one's good. We'll go back and check our zero. Micrometer would be a little more accurate, but 40.04. This 39.89. We're good. 39.92, 39.85. Oh, am I 40? Almost 40, right? Oh, I'm in too deep. Here we go. Yeah, 40.02, right? We're allowed 40.04. 40.01. I don't think I have these in square. I think I hooked on that little portion right there on the cap. 39.98. 39.84. We're in spec on both of them. So our rod bearings should be good. Our crank journals are good. And where they connect on to, we checked. I should have wrote them down. How come I didn't write them down? But they're within spec. And the good thing is if you had this machine for 5 years and you have a similar problem, when you go to take it apart, you can measure to what you had originally, what you did on a rebuild, and then what it is now. You know, I don't know if anybody keeps track of that. But I do have a short story I could tell you on the on my mechanicing years. Is I worked for Yellow Cab, and I was a mechanic, and I did the maintenance in the shop. And what we did was we had a file cabinet. I think we had about, I don't know, 50 cabs, I don't know. They were Chevy Caprices, and they all had the 4.3, and they were in nice shape. I mean, they kept them nice. The drivers had to keep them washed. They had to keep the gum out of it, the dirt. They were responsible to keep the interior clean. They were responsible to take it to the wash bay and get it washed. So my job was maintenance. So the guys would, you know, drive it. They bring it in on their shift. They come in and they just write on the sheet for that cab, say it was cab 34. They come up and they say, oh, it's due for an oil change. You know, look at the reminder. And then also, right front tire keeps going soft. Okay, well, he's probably picked up a nail. Let's get that fixed. And then they might say something like engine temperature running high. And that would be it on that car. So I'd bring it in and I'd say, all right, well, it's got to have a service anyway. We check the antifreeze and the upper radiator hose might have been leaking. Check the hose condition and replace it or whatever. Take the hose off, might as well throw a thermostat in. And I did that. And then we kept service records, if you're interested in this. So on the service record, we'd open it up and we'd flip through. We know who the driver was. We know how many miles he drove it on the shift. We know that the same thing came in 2 months ago with the same issue. So you got to get on that driver and say, you're driving a little rough, or why are we having the same problem? What can we do different on whatever problem, you know? And what I liked about it is, like I said, we go back to the file, we flip through, and we go, oh yeah, well he put brakes on that 2,000 miles ago. What's he driving 2-footed, you know? And I thought that was great record keeping. I like my books on my equipment, if you can afford to buy them. In this case, it cost me ink, and I got an Epson printer with a tank, and so it doesn't cost anything. You buy the big bottles and they last forever. So cost me a half a ream of paper, not a ream, but yeah, I guess half a ream of paper to do this. And so I got $3. I got a book. So anyways, back to this. I want to go with the pistons. I want to get these cleaned out on the lands, and then I want to find out if there's any other measurements. I think we set a ring in there and we checked for side clearance, and I think we're allowed like 7 thousandths, and that's about it. I know we can measure the wrist pins and all that, but we got a lot of nice movement. So I'll get these all cleaned up, get our rings out, and get the ring compressor ready to put the pistons in. Alright, here's I cleaned this all out with brake clean. Here's one set of rings. This is the one I opened previously. They're labeled. We got our oil. When you go to put this on, it's easy to go too far and kind of try to overlap it, but they have to touch. That's all, just touch. And then the thin guys are your oil rings. And there's no label on them. So they go in either way, no top or bottom. And then what I want to find out is, like this has a pink mark on it. That's our second ring. And is there a top and bottom? Got to look closely. I'm looking up here, there's no writing on it. And if you look very close, there's a little ridge right here. So the 2R goes up, helps scrape the oil. And then the top ring, no writing on this side, has a blue stripe. And this says 1R. And you look at this, and this does not feel sharp. It feels rounded over. This one feels sharp. It's part of that scraper. So that's the order they got to go in. And I think what I want to do, I did it once, but I want to do it again, is put, say, ring 2 in here. And the number up. And then push it down in the cylinder a little ways. And try to get it straight using a piston. So you get an accurate measurement. Usually if you set a ring on there, you can push it into the ring touches and you're square. But otherwise, I like to push it until it looks even. Like that. And then I want to measure that ring end gap. We did it on ring 1, we didn't do it on ring 2. And then I want to pull up the spec here, and valve clearance valve, seating valve, valve, engine oil, where is it here? Valve, valve, valve. Let's see here. I'll find it. Thought I had it out. I didn't have it out. Am I on the wrong one here? Let's see what the ring end gap is, right? But there's different things I want to do. Is I want to take the piston and I want to see what direction. This is cylinder 1 and it's closest to, let's see, get our bearings here. This is the bottom, cylinder 1, piston 1. It said that there's a letter A on it, but I can't read an A. And these are super clean. It says 13001-727. It's got an arrow pointing this way, which is up, I'm assuming. So it should go in this way. But what I want to find out is where the exhaust valve is. I want to, and the exhaust valve would be on the top, putting it this way. I want to put the top ring toward the intake side to be cooler than this side, and then I want to space them around. So I saw it in one photo that somebody drew lines on it like thirds, and then you put your ring, space them. When this thing starts running, the rings are going to start turning anyway, but we put them in right and they might seat faster. All right, we're going to put the oil ring on. And what that'll do is there's no real measurement to this one. You put them on, that's it. So I'm going to put them on, and that would help me put the set of rings in there to test it. Make sure I'm in the cylinder square. So look closely on this. You know, you just want them touching. You don't want them overlapping. And there's no up or down to it. Just be careful not to spread it too far and be crazy with it. And fumble fingers, you know. Don't be in a hurry. Slow down, it's faster. So I'm going to work that down. Get that in our groove. Like that. And then look at it. Bring it back slightly and have it so they just touch. Like that. You cannot have them overlap. That would mess you up. You have a bad day. So now we're going to put, these don't matter. There's no label on them. I'll put this on. I marked the top of the piston like this drawing here. And that's how they want you to line your rings up. So I'll read that and get it proper. Just go easy with them so you don't bend them. I'm going to stop, go in. Well, you know what you should do first. This is smart. Is it ends there. See it? So you want to move it around a third of the way anyway when you put it on. You don't want to have it lined up with that. I'm pretty close. And then you might get that down on there. Fumble fingers. Probably if I had a vise over here, I could hold this and it'd be easier. I got one out in the shed. It's a woodworking vise. Should screw it to this old table. So that's there. Follow it around. My new shop lights in here. Some of them are new. I think I got, there's two of them anyway. Some I reuse from my different spots. They're LEDs, but these are 5K. They're nice and bright. But I'd like one right over top of where I'm working, so there's no guesswork done. Come on, get in there. I haven't rebuilt an engine in, my 65 Ford Mustang. I had a 289 4-speed, a K5. Oh, I was a fool selling that. K5, it come from Germany, and the guy ran it on the Autobahn. He was in the service, brought it back with him, he said. I don't remember what year. And I bought that. It was white, and I did not like the color. That looks pretty good. And I think I can turn these around when I get to that point. But see how that ring lines up with the end of that? You don't want to do that. So I'm going to walk this around about a third. It's just a hard spot to see it. And when I figure that out, it'd be nice to have a vise. I can hold this still. Forgot to turn the camera on. Dawson come home from school and he held this piston like that for me. Now I can put it on. I just fumble fingers, you know. I got the top ring here, the bottom ring there, so we're across from each other. And then we've got the the end of that ring stopping here. So now we're just going to turn it around like that. We're good. So that's the bottom oil ring. Now I can take this and either set that in there to line up that other ring, which should be pretty easy because we got our second ring setting in here. So let's do something a little smarter. Is we'll take our ring out carefully. We'll turn it this way. We'll put it up the direction it goes in the cylinder, which was right to begin with. And we're going to put this back in there. Let's see, get in there. Like, boy, these are a lot better already, Dawson. You know what? The other ones kind of fell out, you know. Remember how small they were? So now we're going to take our piston and just push that ring in. And I'm going to go down till I'm like at the oil ring. Look at that. Before, if you remember, I put the piston back in. The oil ring was so worn down that fell right in the cylinder. Remember that, Dawson? So now our ring is in square. And so I've got my feeler gauges out here. I found another 2 sets of them. This one, I think we can read. Remember what our ring end gap was, Dawson? 105,000. This is the second ring, and it was 105 thousandths. This is the top ring. So look at what it is now. It's like a piece of paper. So this should be around.
Or it's what is it? 6 thousandths?
Well, actually, what is it here? If we measure somewhere here.
10 to 15.
Is that up here?
4 to 6 thousandths.
Where are we? No, that's valve clearance. We want.
Where is it?
It's not this paper even. It's in this pile. Is it here? It's one of these right here, Dawson. It's got a ring end gap here somewhere. But I want to check what it is while he's looking. It should be right here. It should be on the one you're on, the piston ring gap. Let's check this cylinder. I think it's going to be around 12 thousandths. 15, 12. This is 12 thousandths. Look at that, Dawson. It's bigger than that. So would you come up with it? I'll be back on in a second. I got to find the spec. Okay, I think I'm a little more organized. There's our photo of our direction our ring gap should be. Our ring end gap is the top ring, 0.6 millimeter, 24 thousandths. Second ring 9.9, 35 thousandths. Now this is a service limit. And we were allowed on the second ring 35 and we had 105. So I'm going to write that down here. So 105. So how much difference was that, Dawson?
70 thousandths.
70 thousandths greater than it should have been. And then our top ring, we had 80 thousandths.
61 thousandths.
And it's 60. How quick he is in math. I'm making him take some math classes. He's going to be an engineer, right? 61 thousandths. And so how much over was that one? At 21? 21 thousandths greater. So the top ring wasn't too bad, considering the reason it didn't pull the oil back down on the second ring is because it was a huge gap. So we just checked this with a 12 thousandths or 3. I can't even read that. Can you? That 3 millimeter? It can't be 3 millimeter. That's the 305. What's that say?
12 thousandths.
What's this one say?
Mm-hmm.
It should be 0.3, but let's see what we got here. There's a little bit of play, so it's a little greater than that. Let's get our size. You always want to check your gap. And we're allowed, what did we say on the second ring? We're allowed up to 35, so let's see what we are. 17, 19, there's 20 thousandths. And it fits. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. What do we allow? 35? 21. I need new fuel gauges. There's 23. There's 24 thousandths. And that's our limit, right? No, what's our limit? 35 on the second ring. And I force it in there. It fits. It sticks. So I'm going to write down that we have 24 thousandths, and which is looks like 0.61, right? And they're calling 0.9, so 0.610, 24 thousandths on the second ring. So that means that this ring and our cylinder is good to go. It shouldn't smoke. Should be fine. Now we're going to do our top ring. Do the same thing with it. I don't know if I'm doing this right. Am I doing this right, guys? I'll push that in a ways. Ooh, feel that? That's tight. We're going to have some compression. Ugh. Then, look how tiny that is, Dawson. We can go up to 24 thousandths on this one, so we're going to start at, I don't know, 15. Does it fit? No. Nice, 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 nice. I just saw a 13 in there. Time to get rid of these old tools. I've had these for 40 years. Like I said, I did auto mechanics for a few years, and then I started into carpentry, and I was making a little more money in the carpentry. Here's 13 thousandths. That don't fit in there. Nice, Dawson. This isn't going to smoke. We're going to have a little compression. We shouldn't get blow by in the crankcase. Shouldn't splatter us with oil. Nice. 15, 17, 11. Are you guys faster at this stuff, or do you want to go slow enough to enjoy it? Slightly. Got a little drag at 11. I bet it's 12. There's 12 thousandths. So we're going to go with the top ring at 12 thousandths. So, and we're allowed 24 thousandths. So we got 12 thousandths of wear. So that's probably another $400. So we're going to pull the rings back out. We're going to put them on the piston. So if Dawson would like to hold this, he did a good job before. We're going to go with ring number 2 right here. And this has the pink on it. And we're going to set that on. And we're going to bring it down around. Try not to overstretch it. Let's turn this. There you go. Okay. This is a lot tighter than the old. The old one kind of fell right off. I'm going to get a expander little tool out to put these on properly. Don't let it hit the ring. So we're going to take the ring tool. We're going to put the word up. And look at this ring, Dawson. It's super close. What do you see? Like you can't see it on camera.
Little 3-layer thingy.
Yeah, so with the words up, which is this way, which way is that?
Right there.
It's a scraper. So if you're looking under magnification, it's got this, and that's going to bring the oil back down. And it's going to come in the side of this ring and catch inside there. And it's going to drip out of these openings. There's 4 openings, right? How many is there? I guess there's 2 openings. And that helps feed it down through. So I'm going to take ring number 2 and take this cheap little Chinese tool. And it helps you open this up. So we're going to take and open this up slightly. And it's going to go on there. You're not going to break it. You're going to go gently. Oh, that would be a bummer if we broke one. Well, you have to open them a lot. We get it down over that. Got to go down one more. I don't like pulling a ring that hard. Okay, so now we're in second. Now, we do have a measurement we got to do on that, and it was 7 thousandths. So let's pick that up. And we're allowed 7 thousandths of play. Side, don't get rough on that piston. So here's a 7. We're allowed 7 sideways. Here's our ring in there. We're allowed 7 thousandths gap between it. See that? It doesn't fit, and it still moves easily. So that means that the land isn't too big. So we're in good shape. Now we're going to do ring number 1. And if you look at that one, feel this one. Smooth, isn't it? So the compression ring does not have a real sharp biting edge on it, like, you know. So we're going to put the number up. And we're going to do the same thing. Put our cheap little tool in there. Spread it gently. And drop her down on there. Ooh, didn't get it. Didn't get it. Didn't get it. Do that again, Frank. All right, one more time. Crank the cap. Nice. Now what we have to do is, you see the markings on here. We got, that's supposed to be A, B, C, D. So we got to turn the rings and line them up. And what I said I wanted to do is, this is cylinder number 1, because, let's see, this is the top and it's closest to the flywheel. And so I believe it goes in this way. And this is a flat edge that goes against the crank. And this is a beveled edge that goes against the other rod. I think it allows probably oil to drain between the two, so there's not much friction against them. They don't look like they've ever touched. There's no marks on it. This side, there is slight mark right here. And I don't think there's a whole lot of, watch, these are just loose. I loosen them up, sort of, yeah. There's not a whole lot of super tight tolerance here, because watch this. See that move left and right? I would think they'd have like a little clip guide, because you can move them 10,000 side to side. But I would imagine when they're on there, it lines it up. And so anyways, I want to find out the direction of this. I'll learn that. I'll come back on, and then we'll put the spring compressor on there, tighten her up, and slip her in. We're going to oil it and slip it in. Well, I might have done something wrong already. I hope you guys caught it. I might have done it wrong. I told you that this had a scraper for ring 2, and I thought it's to bring the oil back down. It doesn't really say that. But in the manual here, it says, install the second ring so that the white stripe A is on the right side of the end gap. Install the second ring so that the notched edge faces upward. And the picture is tiny, but it shows that that little notch out is the opposite direction. Now, the writing on the ring, and the colors don't correspond to that. It says white stripe. We've got a pink and a blue. But we mounted it the opposite way because I believe it said number 2 on the top. And so I would assume they'd label that right for us, wouldn't they? I don't know if I can get back in there and grip that. Maybe. Might have to take the top ring back off. But now I'm concerned that it might be designed to push oil up to the top ring and not necessarily down. So I'm going to do a little more research. I'm going to read this. I'm going to read the manual, and then I think I'm going to pull it up online because now I'm concerned that possibly the top ring's on upside down, even though it does not look like it matters. So, and the new parts did not come with any directions. So I want to make sure this is correct. All right, so I brought the old rings back up, and they both have square edges and they're very sharp. They don't have the second ring difference of that little scraper on them, a little cutout bevel. And that's why I didn't notice it on taking it off, because there's nothing there. It's a chance that these are worn enough that it wore that off. I don't know that. Or an updated design. But I'm going to put them aside. I got to do a little more literature. I went back to YouTube quick. And is it Mower Mike on there said to put the rings with the numbers or words up. So ring 1, ring, which I did. We did that. But then in the book here, the manual, it says that we got to install it the opposite direction. And if you're wondering, this is for the FR730V, the 691. We have the 730. Fits all these engines, FX. This is super important, so I want to make sure that we're doing this right. And so go back to this drawing here, and it shows, do not mix up the top and second rings. Install the second ring as follows. Replace with a new one. Install the second ring so that the white stripe A is on the right side of the end gap. Now these are Kawasaki rings, and it is definitely blue for the top ring and definitely pink for the second ring. And it calls for this engine, and I looked it up myself and I called the guy, and yep, do them all the time, yep. So I'm assuming I got the right parts. Our end gap looks great inside. Everything is in spec, so I'm sure they're the right rings. They might, I don't know when this was printed, they might have had a change, but I do not want to put the ring in upside down. They're showing that the bevel is up and not down. I thought it was to bring the oil down. It might be designed to push the oil up. I need to find that out. So when I do, I will let you know what I learned. Well, the reason I printed out this booklet was so that I do this properly. The rings don't match the new rings. I'm not sure if it's an updated design. If you search YouTube for one of these Kawasaki engines, a lot of them are burning oil. And so, is this a new design, having a scraper ring as your second ring? But here, install the second ring so the notched edge faces upward. B. Go to B. That's a notched edge facing upward. Well, you go back over here and it says install the second ring so that the white stripe A is on the top, is on the right side of the end gap. No, that's a poor picture for that. But now let's go look at this. Now, on my piston, the top ring has a blue stripe. Now, if we move that over, see how it says ring 1? Now, this one, the second ring, the gap is right here, and it says place the stripe on the right side of the end gap. This is the right side of the end gap. And I gotta get the wording out there, but that says ring 2 on it. And so I installed it the way I've always installed them. And the scraper, if we can get it in view, here, is a big deal to me. I mean, it's tiny on this, but that to me would bring the oil back down and cut back on oil consumption. And I kept searching. I went online. There's a Napier, if I pronounce it right, and it's got a sharp point out, scraping down. And on this, the cylinder wall is on this side right here. Then they have a reversed, I can't read it, reverse turn, I don't know what it is, but it's got a sharp point pulling the oil down. It's got a taper doing that. And there's a couple other designs. This is mounted like this, so the scraper is down. If we flipped it over, it would put the ring, or it would put the line on the left side of the ring and gap. And so I want to follow the directions which make more sense in that photo and do it the way I've always done it. And I searched a couple YouTube videos on mower guys, engine guys, and I did not see anything where it said to flip it over, flip your ring over and do the opposite way. It's like install your pistons facing up, you're putting your rings on, the words face up. And that's how I'm doing it. Still frustrating, but this is very important to me. I'd rather have this thing put together right, but I don't want it to burn oil. So I'm wondering if that's a new design. It is a Kawasaki ring set, and it was stamped 23, so it's a new set, September of 23. I'm hoping it's an upgraded design, so we'll find out. In a better view, see where it says R2, ring 2, and that would put the stripe on the right hand side of the ring end gap, which is right there. I cannot believe they'd want you to turn that upside down. That would make me have to turn the top ring upside down. The words are on the bottom. Most ring sets for cars and things, there's a little dot on the ring or a little divot in the ring, and you place that up. So put a comment down there if you know better than me. You probably do, but it's important, and I want to make sure this is assembled right. I'm going to go ahead and assemble it the way I've got it, and then I'm going to turn the rings in the right orientation like that. And so we get, I don't know, 45 degrees apart is what it says. And the other way I've heard is if you line up your compression ring nearest the intake valve. And in this case, the engine is upside down. So this would be the exhaust up here, and you want your ring, your compression ring, farthest from that. So you probably want it on this side. And that way, I don't know. That's how I'm going to do it. Well, here's the fun things I'm doing on a Friday night, right? Dawson, my helper, he went to Spirit Week at school where the students play games in the gym, and they have this dare eat these strange foods. I don't know, they call it something, and I don't know what it is. And it reminds me of what I did in 4-H is, you know, they make you put your hand in oatmeal and you think it's poo, or, you know, things like that. And they say you're eating snails and it might be a clam, or I don't know. But he did that last year and he won. But he said he got home and got sick. He spit up stuff. He said it was terrible. And I said, well, maybe don't eat the food tonight. Just play the games. What I did is I marked this piston. That's the engraved arrow pointing up. Then I did my line across C. Then I did BD at a 45. And we take the top ring I'll do the bottom ring first. It's easier. We'll do the bottom ring and line that up on C. I'll take the oil ring and make sure that that's around again at about another 45 plus degrees, so we don't have a gap and a gap lining up. And then we're going to take the top ring. See how easy they move in there. And we're going to turn, let's see here if I did that right. The top ring is going to be B, and the bottom ring, the scraper, is going to be D, which is over here, like that. And then the top ring is going to be right there on B. So now we got here, one here, one here. So this one I'll probably move back halfway. The oil ring down there, up here. And then I'm going to put it in, put the spring compressor on it. I'm going to set this in a vise with a cloth because I lost my helper and she flops all over and I don't want to spin the ring like I just did putting this on. So we'll do this in a vise and then we're ready to set it in. So I got our rings in. I got a ring compressor installed. I'm looking at my direction of the factory arrow. Points towards the flywheel. So now we got to take the cap nuts off or bolts off and put a little lube on there. I'm just going to use motor oil. The thing I recommend is probably some kind of assembly lube. And I had a little bit of it, a little tube of it, and I don't know where I put it. Should be in the toolbox. Maybe it still is and I just didn't see it. But assembly lube is good. But what I recommend is crank it over quite a bit with no ignition or no fuel, either or, and build up oil pressure, you know, before you fire it up. You don't want it going from just torqued up to starting up. And we're going to pull these out. Going to slide the piston in. And what I do when they're studs and not bolts is I take and put rubber hoses on here so that when you go in you don't, you know, have a chance of damaging the crank. The other thing to do is just take your crank and turn it down. Don't have it up here, you're going to hit right away, but down there, it's out of your way. Then, what can you see here? Let's get over in the right position. So, we want to put a little assembly lube on. But like I said, let me run over and double check again if I have some. Well, I did not find it. I found my micrometer and a couple other items I haven't used in a long time. So I guess I'll lube the crank first. I wonder if I can pour this right in there. Probably. Oh yeah. It's going to get oiled anyway, but oil up your crank. Pretty clean new oil. And then your cap and your rod and cap, and nice clean lube. Then let me get this oil off me. We're gonna line up our mark pointing toward the flywheel, which is down. I'm gonna slide this in there carefully. Tap, bang, tap. Set her in like so. And see how she fits. Well, what did we do? Didn't lube up that yet. Want to put a little bit on the skirts. And then I want to put it in the cylinders. Whoa, there's some. And as it goes in, it's going to go in freely. Definitely need a rag now. So, we got a hammer handle here. Usually something made out of wood is good. You could use a rubber hammer. Make sure the arrow points down. Cylinder number 1, piston 1. Set her in there. so. Check our rod, try to keep it centered so it doesn't interfere. Like so. Let's confirm our crank's down all the way without hitting, right? And then my spring compressor's not exactly on straight, so that's probably doing my issue here. But now we take the handle of the hammer and see if we can get her to go in there. And then we hold our spring compressor real tight so we don't lose a ring, which we might have already done, right? I think we did, and that's because this is off 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to redo this learning curve. Well, I got her that time. So we are in. Now I got to watch the crank here. We don't touch the journal. And it's free, so it's not binding in there. And then what I'd like to do is get her to line up good. Looks like about there. There. And now we can put the cap on. So we got our arrow facing down, plenty of oil in there. We've got our connecting rod on our journal here. Now I'm going to set the cap on, and if you look at it, I might have said that wrong earlier. It's easy to flip it over because your engine's upside down. One side of your cap is flat. The other side's got that big bevel on it. And you want to make sure you line them up the same in there. So the bevel goes toward the bottom, and then we set our cap in there like so. I'll get my bolts, put my bolts in it, and then we'll check out the torque. I think it was around 87 inch-pounds, I think, something like that. And the chart here says connecting rod big end cap bolts, 87 inch-pounds. So I think I'll turn this cheapy thing up to, what do we got here? 30, 40 pounds right there. 10 millimeter. And then you gotta turn the crank a little bit just so you can get in there. Maybe I'll use a regular ratchet first, because I only got them finger tight. And let's see, we got a quarter. Yep. Get them in there a little bit better first, because they're a little loose. And then watch your cap. And I'm not sure, like I said, this is a good idea. And the reason is, I showed you all that end play in the cap. Now, I think it'd probably be smarter to loosen that up. Just keep it a little loose. I mean, touching, but don't torque it yet. Work on the second rod. Put the second rod in, which is going to slide that over and probably space that better, because they have a lot of play in them. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to get piston 2 and to play. See, that's fairly tight now, but loosen them up a little. Just to repeat is how sloppy that is. So if I move this over and torqued it up with only one rod in there, that's about 15-20 thousandths, and this is sticking over slightly. Now I can move it back this way and it'd be the opposite. So My suggestion is probably put them both on and torque them at the same time. I would say. I didn't read that, but that's a common sense thing for me. So I'll leave these on, and what this does by leaving your cap on is it protects this inside journal from you tipping over and scratching it or something. So we're going to do the same thing. These lands are real nice shape. They're super clean. I think I already sprayed it once with brake clean, but we're going to do the same thing. We're going to mark out this piston, find out where our ring end gaps are going to be, and open up ring set number 2. Before I put in ring set number 2, I want to measure the ring end gap for cylinder number 2. I did them on cylinder 1 for the ring set 1. So we'll do the same thing. There's no sense of showing you the same thing twice, but I want to slide it in, get it even, check the gap. I wrote it down, what the other one was, on one of these sheets here, and I'm going to look on that sheet and see if it's the same thing. Probably is. And then once I get them on, we'll put the spring compressor on them and set that in, and be careful sliding your rod in. And I'll do the same thing by moving this. That's a pretty good location right now to put them in, probably. There's a lot of room in there, so I should be able to slide that one in too. And then we'll torque them at the same time. This block of wood works good because your crank won't hit the table. And then we'll do the same thing on this cylinder. And then this is ring pack 2. And I want to show you it's the same thing. It's Kawasaki number. Genuine. And so I can't believe that they worded it in the book 2 different ways. But I'm going to go with my old school way. And I'm just going to put the ring in the way it says, or what I always did. Here's our 2 oils. And then the ring 2 is pink, 2R. And then this is 1R. And 1R is a square edge ring. And if we install it on the piston with the wording up, that would put the color on the right side of the ring end gap, like the book says. And if I put it in this way, is what the book picture shows, with that little land, little groove, scraper, going up. But that would put our line on the wrong side, and I can't see where it says 2R. 2R is right there. So I think somebody's wrong here. I'm going to go with what's on here, do it the same as the other side, but I want to check, like this is 2R. I want to put this ring in, check the gap. I'm going to put it at the bottom, do the same thing all over again. So I won't show you this again. The video is going to run very long, but a lot of times when I go to edit, I'm like, oh, I don't want to leave that part out. There's that one guy out there, wish he got a little bit more information, you know. Some guys want a 10-minute video, but it's hard to learn anything on a 10-minute video. And I don't know, I'm into learning something. I'm gonna line this up as even as I can with no rings on it, like that. And now we're gonna check the space again. I left a feeler gauge out for the side land, didn't I? So I think we had like 12. I gotta look it up, but we'll see what we got. And then we'll move along. Here's 13. And, oh, it's tight. It fits, but it's tight. Let's see if 12 is gonna work. I don't know. Make a comment down there if you want to see some short videos. Yeah, that fits too easy. So it's around 13 thousandths. So I'm pretty happy with that. We're allowed up to 24. We'll pull this thing out. And then I'll come back on when we have the piston installed. All right, now I got the rod in, I got the cap on. I think it makes sense because there's very little bit of end play. We measured that if I went ahead and torqued one up, the other one would go in hard. So I think that's probably correct. So now I want to spin the crank over. We'll go clockwise. I want to be able to tighten up. We can tell we honed the cylinders. There's a little bit of friction now. Hear it? All right, I got to get where I can tighten up the cylinder 1 cap bolts a little bit. Just a little. Now, check these again. All right, they're about 5 inch-pounds. So now what I want to do is I want to go around the whole revolution. And what that's going to do is if there's any little twist in there, I think that's going to settle. I don't know that that's true, but let's see what kind of friction we get here. This long bolt's probably got to go down a mile. We got both pistons coming up. There's going to be a little more friction right now, but get this long bolt down in there. I don't want to put vice grips on this. There we go. Now the piston, that one's going down. This one's just starting. I want to go around, just get it to settle, and then I want to torque them up. And they're 87 inch-pounds, which isn't a whole lot. That's a mile-long bolt. There we go. Hey, she's running. So it feels good. You want to check that, make sure there's nothing binding that you could have done wrong, my guess. So now I'm going to bring them around to be able to torque them both. I should be able to get on them both right about there. And the book says, survey says, blah, blah, blah. What does it say? It says, valve, cylinder, valve, cylinder diameter. I'm pretty sure it's 87 inch-pounds. And blah, 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 right there. Torque connecting rod, big end bolt, cap bolt, 9.8 Newton meters, 87 inch-pounds. And we're going to use our little inch pounder. Take this little quarter socket. And this is a 10 mil. And we've got this set on, what do we got it set on? 40. Lock her down, forward. I can get the bottom one, cylinder 1, right? Hear that? Not a lot of torque, is it? So I'm going to have to back her up a biscuit. That's the only one I can get on. Or do I need to go forward? I think that should do. Get on this one. Now, I should be able to go ahead and torque it on up, so I'm going to go increments. You know, I'll run up to like 60, 40, 60. Do her again. Boy, that's not very much. I'm going to run her up to 87. Be nice to have digital ones, right? This is a Harbor Freight thing, and the lock is messed up. Won't release. How come? Got some pliers. I don't know. This stuff from China, the quality's not there. I wanted to buy some decent ones. I bought these a few years ago, but I wanted to buy some decent ones, and you know, they're kind of out of the budget for what I was working on. You go and buy a whole lot of tools to do a job, you might better just buy what you need if you're not going to use them right away, you know. So now we'll bump it up to 60. Where's 70? 60 is right there. 65, 70. That's 80. 75, 80. Yeah, that's 80. See the mark again. 80. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 87 right there. Boy, it's not very much. Wow. Surprised these don't throw rods, right? Feels like 10 foot-pounds, not even. What's 87 divided by 12? Not very much, is it? Okay, so 87 inch-pounds. Confirm it, 87 inch-pounds. That one's done. Now we got to back it up or go around again, do the top one. We'll go around again. Right there, I should get him. And we want to do the same thing. Loosen it up. Do it in increments where you're not bending your cap or something. So we got 20. We got 40. Boy, that's not much. It said put some lubricant on the threads of the bolts, but they were wet. 40, and that's 60. Click. Run her up to 80. Right. That's 80. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 87 inch-pounds. Be cool to put plastic gauge on them and see what we got. All right, let's spin it around again. You can hear the friction, listen, with the new rings. Let me get you a view of the cylinder walls. I like them. Hopefully the rings will seat kind of quick. See the cross hatching in there? Sharp. Nice. So now we've got our rings on, our pistons in. We got them torqued. We're going to work on dinner, right? I think we need dinner. But we got to put in the tappets. Then we got to put the cam. Yeah, the tappets and cam. So that'll be the next step. Okay, now we've got our crankshaft little notch right here. Should be pretty close to where the camshaft is. We got our camshaft. And we got to do our tappets. And on the tappets, I put a little paint mark, 1-1. So this is intake on cylinder 1. And the engine's upside down, so the intake would be the bottom. A little drop. We'll slide them in. They like to fall back out. They're going to be tough to get down in there, right? Probably. Get in there. Hard to hang on to, so I'll use these skinny pliers. Slide that in there. That should go right. Right there. That's good. And then this is cylinder 1 exhaust. Scrub that off. Now these are in good shape. There's no marks on them other than my little paint mark. There's no wear anywhere. There's no marks, no grooves. The push rod will sit in that little divot. So we'll be lubing up the push rods when we put them in. Alright, there's that. So now we'll do the intakes that's on the bottom. Cylinder number 2. Probably doesn't matter where they go. I think they're the same. But we'll put them back where they were. And pliers again. These are probably easier to put in prior to putting the crank in, but I was worried these would fall out while I tilt the engine. So we waited. Cylinder 2E exhaust. That in there. Now on the cam, we played around with that before. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. These marks are not at top dead center. The pistons are part way down. I don't know what it is. Now this is all assembled. I never took any of this apart. I slid this up and the balls are in place for your governor. Everything looks good there. Gear looks good. Spring and pin look good. These little check balls, everything looks good. Cam loads have no wear on them, nothing. So we're going to lube this up, and then we're going to put her down in there. Put a little oil, oil. And like I said, we're going to fill it with oil. We're going to crank it over. We're not going to just fire it up. We're going to make sure it has oil pressure. We line up our teeth. There's our mark. Tappets look like they're in all the way. Don't know if this will fight us. See, we're off a tooth. Now that looks good, and I'll turn this just a hair forward. See, they line right up. Our cam's in. It'll have play to put your cover on. Now, we're running low on parts, right? Not yet. Now we got to find our alignment bolts. Not bolts, but pins. This is for the bolts for the stator. Pins, guides for the cylinder head. I'll hunt up the right parts here. They're in the bag. Somewhere here. So we're going to be putting the O-rings on the oil journals here. We've got 2 guides, 3 guides. So those guides are in. We just got to do these two that we put in a baggie. We got to get out shouldn't be buried though. Just did this a few minutes ago. Baggies, guys, that's the way to go. Everything's labeled. Hundreds of parts that you don't want to throw them in a bucket. It'd be hard to count them out. There's our carburetor springs, all that. I don't see the guide pins. Where are they, Terrell? These are the stator, valve guides. Let's see here. Seals, I mean. Is this it? There we go. Those guys. And this O-ring smashed right out. See it? They go into this like so. So let me dig out the new ones, and then we'll clean them up. I'll find them here. Now, these had a lot of gunk on them. RTV, because that's what you use instead of a gasket. And the best way to clean these, instead of cutting your fingers on them and trying to hold it, is I put a screwdriver over and just set it up in the brush wheel on the grinder, and it just sings around there and cleans it. Pretty cool. Now we gotta put our little our O-ring on it. These originals got flattened right out. Look like they're in the bottom, of course. There's one. There's one. There's one more big O-ring. Where does that go? Two more big O-rings. Not sure where they go. I don't recall taking anything out. We got intake, exhaust, carb, exhaust, carb, different type of carburetor. So that's a dual gasket setup. And it's got like a 3/4 inch O-ring and about a 1/2 inch O-ring. We need the halves for this. But these big boys, I gotta think of where they go. I'll look that up. Just so they're not on the end of the camshaft or something that we gotta take back apart. So these, just set them over it. Boy, they don't fit very tight. I guess they'll flatten out. That's the object of them, I guess. So, set them over. Does the O-ring? Yeah, see, the O-ring fits in the hole there. Then your guide piece goes on. And, yeah, it goes way down in. So, okay. Put our O-ring in there. And our other guide. Now it's ready for the cover. When we set the cover aside, and we got to line this up down into the oil pump, and that's usually the fun one. This little pin is what turns the oil pump. It's got to sit down in there, and let's see what I got here. We blew this all out. It's been sitting. Put our old gaskets in there. Now I labeled this bottom cover case bolt. We're all set with that. And what you want to do is get this surface pretty clean. I might want to do a dry run just to see if that oil pump lines up good, because right now it doesn't. There, that's better. But right now we don't have the goop on, and you're supposed to use the ultra gray vibration type, and I think I just want to dry fit it. Probably should take this out, but it shouldn't touch, right? No. And we got to go through the seal. And it looks good. And then she's got to go straight down. I just wanted to do a dry run because I seen a couple guys online struggle with this. And see, we're about to the oil pump. Now, if I didn't have a dry run, I have the gasket material. You're supposed to get this assembled within 5 minutes, so otherwise your stuff sets up. And that's the problem, getting it down in the oil pump. So, do you turn the engine over? What other way can you turn it? I've seen guys tap it with a rubber hammer. I don't want to do that. So we'll use a ratchet. Because our gears are lined up, this shouldn't affect anything. We'll just turn it. See that? That's what we got to do. So leaving that bolt in there is smart. Now we're going to take and see how easy it comes off. There we go. And then we're going to take some brake clean and a rag. Boy, this stuff comes out so fast. Get this clean so your gasketing can stick. You do it on one side, you do it on the cover. But because it goes on here, I want to spray that. I always wonder why brake clean comes out so fast. They want to empty the can in a hurry. And then we'll let this set. We've already blown all these holes out so we know they're clean. There's no liquid in them. We've got our O-rings on here. So I used to think you had to put this stuff on, let it tack over up to an hour and tighten it. The directions say exactly opposite. They say use, see if I can find it here, breather pipe, camshaft tappet removal. It was on the cover. Crankcase inspection, disassembly, crankcase assembly, somewhere here, be sure the oil seal is removed, blah blah blah, thoroughly pack, da da da. See, it does say pack high temperature grease in the space between the dust slip, and we did that. So that's good. Tighten the crankcase cover bolts, torque them to 20 foot-pounds. With a tightening sequence. Here we go. Apply liquid gasket, and there's a part number, but it's gray, and they want to use, this is high torque, and it's the anti-vibration, I guess they call it. But it says, apply the liquid gasket to the mating surface of the crankcase cover. And then make the application within 5 minutes when the liquid gasket to the mating surface of the crankcase cover is applied. So when we put it on, don't go take a coffee break. And moreover, fit the case, and tighten the cover bolts just after finishing the application. So there's no flashover time. So we know it fit in, we know the marks line up, all of the cam and everything's put together, case is clean, everything's torqued, tappets are in. We'll bust this tube and we'll just put a bead around it. This dries pretty quick, so we'll run around, probably smooth it with a finger maybe. I don't know if you can see this, but I'm putting a, I don't know how thick I want to put it. It doesn't really say, but I'll get crazy with it. So these surfaces are machined really well. I would rather have a gasket in there, but I waited about a week for this kit to come in, and I was hoping I'd get it by the weekend, give me a project to do on the weekend, more video content. But I'm sure there's a lot out there, because it looks like a lot of these Kawasaki engines, they say they're commercially rated, but they a lot of them burn oil after a few hundred hours. So I'm learning a lot. I think the next time all I need is a torque sequence and numbers, and I don't think I need directions. The only thing that threw me on this was the double standard, or what they did is tell you to put the second ring on the opposite direction, and then the picture shows something else. This picture, it's foolish. I'm just doing it the old school way I'm used to. So this stuff is setting up pretty fast. So the only thing I want to be careful and wipe off is down here in the 2 oil journals. It's easy to use too much. Don't want any down in them. I don't want to restrict anything. I'll be smoothing that out with a finger, get that out of there. And it looks pretty good. Nothing in there. 85 pounds of oil pressure should come flying through there. So now we're going to assemble right away. We're not going to wait. Our oil pump gear looks like it lined right up. We want to put a little more oil around here. Oil around here. And then we'll put her together. Our O-rings are set. And here we go. See if she lines right up. Look at that. Woohoo! We are on a roll. So now these are 12 millimeter, and looks like the length will all be the same on them. Always check that. Line them up. Usually on disassembly, but line them up and make sure. I should have ran these in the brush wheel. I'm going to run these in the brush wheel quick and clean up these threads. There's a little bit of gray RTV on them. Alright, we got all of our bolts cleaned up. Hand start them. Make sure you catch. Don't zip them in and cross thread them, you know. It says do all this within 5 minutes. Alright, now we'll zip them in to touch. I'll turn this down to 1. I can see it gushing out. All right, now they want 20 foot-pounds. So we'll put this on like 10. What's it go to? It starts at 20. Looks like we're going to 20 foot-pounds. 5, 6, 7. Let's see how accurate. This is a cobalt I got from my friendly tool guy. Now I've got a quarter, 3/8, and half. I never had a 3/8, so. All right, now they got a sequence in the book here. So we got, are we set in the same direction? Now this fins this way. We got one right here. I hear a car, we got company. And then we got two down here. It was basically just opposites. We got 3. Oh, they're tearing out. 3, 4. Peeling out of the driveway. 4. And then we got 5. I hear them knocking, but I'm going to keep this going. Somebody's knocking. Should I let them in? 5. This is not in order, but this is 6. 7. It's still knocking, so hold on, I'll go get it, I guess. He knows how to get in. There's 8. And this is 9. Which makes this one 10. So I did them by hand. They're probably up at least 10. So now we're set on 20. So we're going to run them right down. This is 1. Hear it? 1. This is 2, right? 2. 2. 3. It's down here. 3. 4 is next to it. 4. 5. This is what I would think a connecting rod ought to be hooked up at. There's 5. 6.
What are you doing, Dale?
Hey, we are filming. 6. And we're torquing up the case bolts. 6. We skipped 1. 7. And then we got 8. 9. And 10. You see that? I think so. So now we're going to start all over. We always double check it. 1. We got 2. We got 3. 4. 5. 6. 7. 7's up here. 7. 8. 9. Look at that, guys. We got the case on. 10. All right, I got to go see how Spirit Week went. It's the end of Spirit Week at the school. They had their get together. I got to see what he ate tonight. So I just went in to say hi to Dawson. He did the Spirit Week there. And during the Spirit, what do you call it tonight? The game night or something?
Spirit games. Yeah.
Spirit games. Let him tell you what he ate.
So it was
He doesn't want me to point the camera at him because it was gross.
I did the Fear Factor thing, which is like the main event, and then
What kind of food or whatever?
So for the appetizer, we had it was like a taco salad. They considered it. It had purple Doritos, chocolate syrup, maggots.
Were they real maggots?
Yes, mealworms, and chocolate syrup on top, and then they had garlic. And that was our first one. And I ate right beforehand because I didn't know if I was going down or not. My friend picked me up, and so I shoveled food down right beforehand for dinner because I was hungry.
He had a taco salad.
Yeah, and that did not go good with this. So the first one I ate, I didn't know if I could get through it all because it was a big plate. The second meal was the main course or whatever you want to call it, and they called it a pizza. I couldn't remember I think it was just maybe it was just a pizza dough, but I don't remember what was the bottom. But it had fish larva, seaweed, and
what's fish larva?
It's almost like it looks like caviar almost, but it's like fish eggs.
That probably wouldn't be too bad.
It wasn't terrible. I'm trying to remember what else was on that. But for every one of these courses, we had a side drink. And it was clam juice and something else.
Was it salty?
It wasn't bad, actually, but it was kind of salty. And then the main course, the dessert was what they call what was it? Like a sundae, almost, and it came in a cup. Oh, I'm puking just saying it. And
sounds gross.
The last one I really struggled with because of the texture. It was half filled with ketchup, sriracha, and
what color sauce is that?
It's red. And then crushed tomatoes mixed together, and then for the top, whipped cream. It was a glob of Crisco.
Oh.
And
how big a Crisco glob was it?
Like a tablespoon? Like a good ping pong ball size.
Ew.
And,
you know what he's going to be doing tomorrow?
And then, that one, I struggle with. I didn't think I can't do texture. If it was hard, I could eat about anything. But, the texture. Oh, I forgot. The pizza had jalapenos. The final thing also had something hot in it.
How much pizza?
It burned the back of my throat.
How much pizza did you have to eat?
It was about... Look at this.
Like a personal pan?
Yeah. And then, the quantity and the texture kind of killed me. But the last one, I didn't know if I could get through. I got about halfway done, and then my gag reflex started kicking in.
Oh.
And we each had a puke bucket.
Really?
Well,
how many of you did it?
There were 7 of us, but I was the last one. The first 2 I got the fastest times for. The last one I was a little slow on, but everyone... I think I was down to just me and one other person, and they quit. And then I puked it up, actually, into the bucket.
Ugh.
And I thought I was done, but everyone was cheering me on, so I picked up the bucket and drank the puke.
Ooh, like a bird does.
Yeah,
right?
and I won the
regurgitated.
Yeah, and I won the Spirit games for us. It was 150 white team to 140 points purple team.
Wow.
So.
Didn't you win last year too?
Yeah, I won. I beat the 4-time champion at that last year.
Well, no wonder when he goes to Golden Corral, he can eat that, 4 or 5 steaks. Maybe we should get Joe Rogan to go down there and do the old.
I might include a clip on this. My friend's sending me. I don't know if you guys want to see, but it's pretty gross. But my friend recorded it. We might slip it in here.
Was there a lot of parents there?
Yeah.
Oh, I should have went
The
then.
whole school was there.
Okay, well, I didn't know anything about it till he said his friend was coming to get him.
Oh, I got some on my pants. I just realized.
Oh, man, yeah, he did. So,
Yes.
he's probably going to change and head out, but I think I might quit for the night. It's getting almost 10 o'clock now, but I'm excited. The engine turns over. It's assembled. We got the block done. I'm going to go through my parts bags, and I'm going to find out if there's any parts left. I'm going to go through my gaskets to confirm that everything has a spot. I got to find out where those two O-rings go. They might be for the carburetor or something. I don't know. 2 3/4 inch ones. So that might be a big deal. I didn't take any out that size, so they might fit like this oil strainer, this oil drain plug or something here probably. I didn't even take that off because it wasn't leaking. That's external on the engine, so I don't worry about it. The cylinders look great. Everything turns over fine. This one looks good. I'm gonna crank this around. Look at that. Looks beautiful. Got a nice cross hatch. So it looks like we just got to put probably the heads on next. And this came with Kawasaki valve seals, so I might put them in, but I think I've already done something with them already. And I had a set of them. And so I'll probably just not worry about them because they were new. And so I think the heads are ready to go back on. They're in another box here. And those are somewhere here. They're all cleaned up. They're not right here. I put them somewhere down there. And I'll get out the torque sequence and the specs for that. We got to put the push rods in, lube them up, put the rockers on, adjust the valves. And then we're going to be done with the heads. Then we can do the intake, exhaust. We can do all that and mount the machine, mount it up as a machine versus putting the parts on the mower. So I'm going to end it here tonight, and I'll come back in the morning after breakfast. Probably be 6 o'clock, be back out here.